Hi, my name is Asha. I wanted to come and give you some advice on actually a topic that I haven't talked about in a while, and that's sales. I worked in sales for about 3 years. In those 3 years, I was able to get into a management position and manage a sales team. And honestly, the funnest part about working in sales was training. I honestly wasn't a fan of being a manager. I would have preferred not to have been just the person on the phone doing the selling, but I am really good at teaching people how to sell. So, this came up for me today randomly, and so I just felt like I should follow through on this. And I quickly just came up with a list of 7 ways that you can sell effectively without selling yourself. And so many people are very leery of salespeople, understandably so. And lots of people want to sell what offerings, products, services that they have, but they don't want to come across as being sleazy or money hungry or anything like that. So I'm going to go through these steps that I recommend that you go through in order to be an effective, not just salesperson, but to really effectively communicate and work with your customers and potential customers. So, first one is be an expert on whatever it is you have to offer, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, whether you're giving it to them one on one in person or it's online, whatever it is. You need to know what your product is, what your service is, like the back of your hand. You need to know every single detail. If it's a course, you need to know all the modules. If it's a notebook, you need to know all of the features of this notebook. What is the paper made out of? What color is the ink? What this thing? What is that even called? The spine. This notebook has a cool textured front. You need to know whatever it is. Like, I'm not a notebook person, but there are notebook people out there and they probably know what I'm talking about. You need to know all of these details because I may ask you, you may say, oh, it has this cool textured front. And I may ask, like, well, can you give me an example? Like, what does it feel like? Because texture can mean anything. Is it texture like the texture of wood? Or is it the texture of leather? Like, what does it feel like? So all those sorts of things, you need to be an expert on your offering. Second one is ask questions. You need to be curious about your customer and what they need. This isn't just about you selling whatever you have to sell and getting money. It's not that simple because not everyone knows if this product, this service is right for them. People have their own ways of making decisions. So in order to be able to help them, you need to be able to ask effective questions about what they need, what they're looking for, why they even called you today, how they found their way here, what is their biggest worry or concern when it comes to what your product's meant to address. All those sorts of things. Be curious, ask questions, have a conversation with them about it. The more questions you have, the more information that you have about this person, and then you can make sure that what you're offering is actually relevant to them. Oftentimes we jump off the bat and we just start selling to someone, start talking to them, running their ear off, but we don't even know what we're saying they care about. So first off, ask questions, and then you'll know. If this is in an online setting, then you'll want to engage your audience through whatever means you do, whether it's on social media or it's through an email list or it's through a website or a blog or it's through YouTube or whatever you're using. The third one is react. Show some emotion. This is a conversation. Like, make it casual. If that's your domain. If it's, again, business related, if it's a very corporate sort of thing, you still want to have a personal touch to it. You don't want to sound like a robot is what I'm getting at. You don't want to sound like all you do is live, breathe, and eat this thing, and you don't have a life outside of work. That in that way you can really build a connection to your customer. This is really important, especially if you're doing phone calls and you can't see the person. If you're doing phone calls, you can't see the person, you really need to ensure that your emotion is coming through in your voice. Like your voice isn't just monotone and you're talking like this the whole time. No, that's not going to work. So, emotion. If you're in person with someone, then be expressive. Use your hands like I'm using my hands. Like show some emotion on your face. Don't be afraid of what comes out. If you realize you don't really do that, then maybe practice when next time you talk to someone, like being a bit more expressive when you talk, using your hands, using your body, and talk to them like you're talking to a friend, like you're talking to a mom. Like this is someone that you want to build a relationship with. Ideally, you want them to come and do business with you more than one time. So make it a memorable experience. Make them remember how easy you were to talk to, how easy it was to relate to you, because you're a person just like them. Okay, number 4 is no jargon. Some of us work in very specialized fields, and every single field has their key jargon, right, that they love to use. And the conscious community is things like downloads and, I don't know, goddess, God, shadow work, things like that. And insurance, it was stuff like, oh God, it's been so long, I don't even remember the insurance jargon. But you get what I mean. In your field, you have words that you use to talk to your peers in that field. You don't want to use those words when you're talking to a customer unless that customer is a peer of yours. If that customer is someone that already works in that field and is an expert along the same level as you, then of course it's fine to talk to them in that term. It'll make things go faster and more efficient, and they'll appreciate that. But if they're just a person that, if they're a person that is not familiar with your field or that is even new to it, then don't assume that they know what all the jargon means, and don't assume that they'll be impressed by it. What's honestly gonna happen if you use a ton of jargon is they're gonna be confused. They're gonna feel, they may feel some level of inadequacy because they don't understand what you're saying. They're gonna clam up and not want to talk or share. And then they're just going to pretend like they know what you're talking about and then make some excuse to get off the phone because they're not going to feel safe saying that, oh, I don't know, or asking every other word, like what that word means. The sign and keynote of a true expert is someone who's able to take something that's complicated and make it simple, able to synthesize, change this word into a simpler word, change this concept into another concept, take this process and make it an analogy that someone walking on the street would understand. That's what you're going to have to do to be able to explain to someone who's new to your concept or your product why this is for them and how it's going to help them and serve them in a way and in a language that they understand. Okay. Next one is solve their problems. So I actually mentioned this a little bit earlier, but you need to be solution oriented. Let's say that you've already addressed, at this point in the call, you've already addressed and asked them questions, right? About what they need, why they're here, what are their biggest challenges, and you figured out how. And then through communicating with them without any jargon, you've been able to tell them and explain to them the relevant processes of your product or service and relevant benefits to them in a way they can understand. And let's say that they're bought in. Yes, great, right? They want to do this, but they have a problem. Maybe that problem is they don't know how they're going to afford it. Maybe that problem is they have a business partner, and that business partner they said that they always make decisions together. Or let's say that they have a spouse, right? Same thing. Or let's say they've got the money, but they don't have their credit card on them. It could be a variety. Let's say they really, really want to do it, but they feel like they need to sleep on it, right? So you need to be able to help them solve their problems. It doesn't just come to your product or service or offering. It also comes to helping them move forward and on that buying decision. And so your ability to come up with solutions to what type of payment options do you accept, right? It's probably not just one. You probably have a variety of ways that you accept money. What options can you go through that are going to serve them, right? Yes, you've been in a relationship probably at some point, and you understand the dynamics of trying to make decisions when you're in a romantic relationship. You can sort of highlight your understanding on that concept and see if you can understand what their dynamic is, what their schedule is, how often they usually make decisions together, or if this one is important enough and beneficial enough that maybe they feel comfortable moving forward and making the decision without their spouse. If it's their business partner, again, ask questions about their partnership and how often they make those decisions, and whether this is yes, it's a financial decision, but maybe it's a decision about one aspect of the business that's their domain, and the business partner runs this other aspect of the business and really wouldn't necessarily understand how this product or service is going to benefit the business. But you do, because this is your domain, right? And you've agreed that you handle this part, they handle that part, right? That's a way that you can help solve a problem for your customer. And I could go on down the list, but again, it really comes back to asking questions constantly. That way you can solve the problems, because they're not always going to tell you. They're just going to say, yeah, that sounds great, but not today, right? When they tell you not today, you need to ask them, well, why? What's holding you back? What's going on here? Again, being curious and asking questions. Not in a way that's like, so why aren't you buying this? Like, what's the problem? Like, you're losing out. Like, don't guilt them and make them feel bad. Again, this is like you're talking to your best friend or mom, when your mom says, no, I don't want to go to yoga. Like, you don't have to be like, Mom, are you kidding me? Like, you don't take that tone. You come at it from a place of, that if your mom went to yoga and even just stretched a little bit, that she would probably relieve the back pain that she has. You're coming at it from this place of knowing that your product would help this person, and you're just compassionately trying to understand where they're at so you can see if you have a solution for them. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, number 6 is to track. You're going to track all of the reasons why your customer comes to you, all the reasons why they're interested in your product, all the reasons they give you as to why they can't purchase right now. Every single question you ask, you need to be keeping track of, writing down somewhere that information, because it's going to come up again. I guarantee you, if you get a customer that comes to you, it's like, yeah, I'm really interested in this. I already looked at everything on your website. I just had this one question, but I can't do it today because I need to talk to my business partner, but I want to get this information first, right? If you tackle that call and you are able to process that sale, even if you aren't, you want to keep track of all of the information you got from that person and that conversation, because next week you're going to have another person that might be like, hey, yeah, I'm interested in doing this, but, me and my business partner always make all the decisions together, so I'm not going to be able to move forward on it now, but possibly in the future once we discuss it at our next meeting, right? You're going to be prepared. You're going to have remembered. You don't want to always leave it up to your memory, because I'm a really forgetful person. So you want to keep track of that somewhere so you can reference it and use it. And this follows into the next and final step, which is refine. So as you learn more about your customers' needs, wants, desires, issues, when it comes to not only the problem you're solving with their product, but also when it comes to moving forward and actually acquiring that product or service, It's going to be all the information you gained from working with customers. And so they might mean that at first you feel really awkward. You don't always know what questions to have. Maybe you lose out on a potential customer because you're struggling to solve their problems effectively. It is something that is gained with time. Honestly, the most important part of all of these steps is to ask questions. If you can ask questions well and in a way that makes you approachable and inviting and makes them feel safe to really go there with you, then you will be I'm trying to find a word. I was gonna say that they will love you, but I stopped myself. But they will love you. They will love you. They will love your service. They will love your brand. If you can get them to open up about things that they're afraid to talk to anyone about. I'll give you an example. I was selling car insurance over the phone to a gentleman. He was probably in his like 40s, mid 40s, and he was really resistant to moving forward with the insurance. We'd already addressed all of his needs when it came to insurance, and I made sure that he had the coverage that he needed, and I addressed his worries about that, and so that was all good. But the main issue came up when it came to actually moving forward to make the purchase. And I related to him. The whole call, I was building rapport, making sure that my product, my service was the right fit for him. So he already had a relationship and he trusted me on this front. When it came to the moving forward for the purchase, he was struggling. He eventually opened up to me and told me that he couldn't move forward because his mom always buys the insurance. And that caught me off guard because, remember this guy is like 40, mid 40s. And yet his mom makes the financial decisions. And I'm like, well, do you live with your mom? And he didn't live with his mom. And I'm like, well, why is your mom making all the financial decisions? And eventually it came down to the fact that his mom had always made his financial decisions and made him feel like he always made poor financial decisions, and he didn't trust himself to be able to make this financial decision without his mom. And wow, literally almost turned into a mini therapy session, and he was really emotional about it, and I related to him. I mean, we all have had instances where our parents have made us feel like we're not good enough, right? And so you show that, you relate to that, you tell him a story about a time when you felt the same way, and then you explain to him and you tell him how you overcame that. Or if you don't have a story of your own, maybe you know a friend or a family member that's going through something similar, right? So you relate to him and you make him feel like he's not alone. And then you empower him. And I empowered him. I told him that he is an adult and can make his own decisions. I told him that this product, that this service, that is something that he needs regardless of whether his mom agrees or not. He needs it to drive on the road. And this will obviously be a different argument if you're selling something like a notebook. They aren't required to have a notebook, but again, let's say if they're taking a course and the whole reason that they were looking at notebooks is to take notes for their course, well, they're going to need to take notes on something, right? So this isn't like a frivolous purchase. It directly meets their need and they're going to need this. So take whatever approach you need to, but in that instance, I was able to empower him. And that's because I was able to react and show emotion. I was able to communicate to him in a way that didn't include jargon. I showed that I was an expert in the beginning by getting his agreement and buy-in for my product or service. And then finally, at a certain level, you just have to talk to him. Talk to them like they're people. And once you've built that rapport with that person, you can get them to do almost anything for you. And I don't mean to make it sound bad, because when I hear myself saying that, I'm like, it sort of sounds bad, but really it's not. If if you connect with someone and you feel like someone is being honest with you, then you know that that person wouldn't be trying to take advantage of you. We can all tell when that's happening. And it's the same thing when you're trying to sell to your customer, right? If you don't have any rapport or trust with them, you're probably not even going to get to this point in the conversation. They're probably going to hang up the phone or find some way else out of it. You're not even going to get this far. So you've already gotten to this point. You've already built trust and a rapport with your potential customer, your client, what have you. Then don't be afraid to really go there with them and really help them solve the problems that matter so that they can move on with their life and take a decision and take a step that's going to enhance their life like you know your product or service will. So, I hope that this was helpful. I don't know if I'm going to do more videos about this topic, sales or not, but I just felt inspired today and I want to share this with you. So I hope so much this is helpful. Please leave a comment down below if this was helpful, if it brought up any questions for you, if you work in sales right now, anything. Let's talk. I want to get to know you and help you in any way I can. So I will put a link in the description or below with my newsletter. Please go ahead and sign up for my newsletter. I'm going to start redefining and what I'm going to actually be using a newsletter for. But I feel like it might be along the lines of like helping people make changes, helping people be successful, things like that. So I want you to be the first to get that newsletter once it comes out. All right, have a great day.